Welcome back, folks. Every month we have a different card game or board game tournament here at Sidetracks. And this month, in February, our tournament is going to be the game of Rummy, which you can play with just a standard deck of cards. But one of the things you'll find if you do a little bit of searching on YouTube and on the internet about Rummy is there are a lot of different variations of the game and a lot of different types of house rules that can be played. So this is going to be a short video to show you the way I learned to play Rummy. My grandmother taught me when I was about 7 years old. And that's the version of Rummy that we're going to play when we play in the tournament. So these are the Sidetracks rules of Rummy if you want to brush up and learn the rules that we're going to use during the tournament. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us at sidetracksbgc@gmail.com or pop a comment down below in the comments of this video, and I'll answer any questions you have about rules. We'll also be going over the rules before the tournament starts. But take a look and brush up and get ready to play some Rummy.
Okay, so in the game of Rummy, each player is going to be dealt 7 cards to start the game. You're going to have a discard pile, and then 1 card is going to be flipped over. The object of the game is to get rid of all the cards in your hand to create sets and runs. And these are called different things by different people. What we call them is sets and runs. And what they look like, a set would be 3 cards with the same number. So say 3 5s or 3 7s, okay? And a run, just going to move those out of the way, a run would be 3 cards in sequential order, all of the same suit. So 9, 10, Jack, or an 8, 9, 10, all of hearts, okay? Ace, King, Queen of a particular suit. And you can also use aces as low. And this is one of the variable rules depending on who teaches you the game and how you play. But the way we play, you can also use an ace low as if it were a 1, so that you could go ace, 2, 3. Now what you can't do is you can't go around the horn with a run. So you wouldn't be able to go king, ace, 2. All right, the ace is either high, it's the highest card, or it's low, the lowest card. All right, the point values are important to understand. Every card between a 2 and a 9, so all of these cards are worth 5 points. Okay, every card between a 2 and a 9 is just worth 5 points. 10s and face cards are worth 10 points. Okay, a 10 and a face card is worth 10 points. Aces, if you use them high, are worth 15 points. Or if you have a set of 3 aces, they're worth 15 points each. If you use the ace low, it's worth 5 points. Okay, so if these were all the cards that you played during this hand, which is a pretty good hand, you would add them up. This is 5, 10, 15, okay, 30, 45, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 105 points. So you would get 105 points for all those cards. Now, let's say you were not the player that went out. So the player that went out is the player who has no cards left. That's what triggers the end of the hand, all right? But let's say you weren't that player. And so let's say you had a few cards left in your hand. What you would do is you would subtract these points, okay? So you would subtract 10 points. Usually what I do is I just take out a card of equivalent value. And then this would be another 10 points. So you could just take out this. And then you would add up the points of what you have left, okay? So you want to get sets and runs. And you're going to lay those down in front of you. Now, the other thing that you can do is you can do what's called play off. All right, so let's say player 3 during their turn had laid down a set of 7s, and player 1 had laid down an ace, king, queen of diamonds. All right, now let's say player 2 had the jack of diamonds. They would be able to lay that down in front of them and basically build off of this run. Even though they weren't the person who put that run down, they would still be able to build off of it. All right. And then let's say that later on player 4 gets a 7. They would be able to build off of that set. Okay. and be able to, they're going to get 5 points is all. This player is still going to get 15 points. This player is going to get 5 points. But you can build off of other people's sets and runs. Now, with all the 7s gone, nobody else could build off of this set anymore because all 4 7s are gone. Somebody could then theoretically build off of this. If they had the 10 of diamonds, you could continue to build off of that run. Okay, so that's the whole game, is building sets and runs. Okay, now let's play a hand here and just see how things would work. Now in this game, you're not going to show the other players your hand. You're going to keep this secret because you don't want them to know what you're going for. Okay, but I'm going to show you. I'm going to reveal this hand just so you could see how it plays. All right, and so let's say we're player 1. The first thing I'm going to do is sort of organize my hand here. And I really don't have much to work with, okay, in terms of building a set or a run. If I got the 6 of diamonds or the 3 of diamonds, I could build off of that. And look at that. Just so happens that the first card that's out there is the 3 of diamonds. So on my turn as player 1, I can either pick this card off the top of the deck and put it in my hand, or I could pick this discard pile, the card off the discard pile, okay? In this case, I would go ahead and pick up this 3 because I can use it to make a set, or to make a run rather, okay? But now I have to discard something. You always have to have a discard. So maybe I would discard the 6 of clubs, and then it would be player 2's turn. And player 2, oh, look at that. I didn't even plan it this way. Player 2 happens to have 2 6s. So maybe they pick up this 6 and lay down a set of 6s, and then they're going to discard an 8, okay? So on each turn, you're going to either pick up a card from the pile or cards from this stack, and then you're going to play them. Now, let me show you. Let's go back to this situation, and let's just do a hypothetical here. Let's say we had a few more cards on the table, and it's player 1's turn. And I still have these cards in my hand. And so I still want that 3 of diamonds, all right? But the 3 of diamonds is buried here in the discard pile. If you're going to pick up from the discard pile, whichever the highest card is that you're going to use, you have to use it immediately. So let's just say I had the 5 of diamonds and I didn't have the 4. For some reason, I wanted to pick up that 3 and save it for later. I couldn't do that. If I pick up the 3 right now, I have to play it right now. All right. But let's go ahead and go back and say, okay, I've got the 4 and the 5. I want to use this 3. That means I have to take all these extra cards that are on top of it. So I'm going to take all these cards. I'm going to lay my run down. And now, see, it's not necessarily a bad thing. If I get stuck with all these cards in my hand at the end of the game, it's going to be a bad thing because I'm going to get a bunch of minus. But sometimes early in the game, it's not so bad because now I've got some extra cards to work with. All right. Oh, I've got a 6 here too. I can play off of that. So I can go ahead and play off of that 6. And then let's say I discard the 2. Okay. And so you're going to go around the table. You're going to be laying cards down here, and you're going to be playing those sets and runs. The key thing to remember is when you draw from the discard pile, whatever the highest card is in that stack, or the lowest card, depending on how you look at it, it's the one closest to it's the one that's buried the furthest. Whichever one you pick up that's buried the furthest, you have to use that particular card. All right, so let's just throw one more scenario out there just to make sure you understand it. Let's say it was like this, okay? And then again, let's look at player 2's hand. And actually, we're going to add something else in there just to make this a little bit spicier. Okay. All right, let's say it's player 2's turn. Player 2 happens to have a pair of 6s. So this 6 would help because it would make a set, and an 8. So these 8s would help to make a set. So they have a couple choices. They could pick these up and just lay down the set of 8s, or you could pick all these up. And remember, if you're picking from here, you have to use the 6 of diamonds. So I'm going to pick all those up. I'm going to go ahead and lay down a set of 6s, and I'm going to lay down a set of 8s. okay? Because that's 30 points right there. And then in my hand, what I'm probably going to do is hold on to these kings, hold on to these queens. Oh, you know what? That's something else to point out. You could hold on to the kings and hope for another king, hold on to the queens and hope for another queen, or you could just do this and go king, queen, jack and make a run right there, okay? And so maybe then you discard this. So you could see taking cards can get you a lot of points. It's also a risky maneuver because later in the game, if you get stuck with those cards, you're going to get minuses. Okay, let's try another scenario here. This is a special rule, and it's called a rummy. Let's say it's player one's turn, all right? They're going to pick a card from the deck. Nothing they can really do this turn. And so they throw down a 6, and they're not paying attention, right? Because if you look over here, there's already a set of 6s. So if they were paying attention, they would have played this 6, and that would be worth points at the end of the game because they could build off of this set. So what happens is if that player lays down the 6 and the other players realize they screwed up, right? They can slap that card and say rummy. And the first person to do it grabs that card. Let's say it was player 4, grabs that card and lays it down in front of them. And now they're going to get the points for it. So it's basically, you know, taking advantage of somebody else's mistake. The only thing that can't happen is if player 1 lays this, player 1's not allowed to rummy their own mistake. So if they make that mistake, then it's on them. All right. Now let's say that player 2 goes and discards and covers that up. You can't rummy a card that's already here in the stack that's buried. All right. Player 3 could pick that up and then play it, but you can't rummy it if it's in the middle of the stack. Okay, let's look at another scenario. As player 1, let's say that these are the 2 cards that I have in my hand, and I see that there's an 8 sitting out there. I want that 8, right? Because then I can make a set. But if these are the only 2 cards in my hand, I can't pick up that 8 and lay the set down because I don't have a card to discard. You always have to discard, all right? So what I would have to do is wait for these players to play, and then they're going to maybe lay some more cards on top of it when they discard. And now if I wanted to, I could pick up that 8, right, and lay down my set of 8s, and then I would have to discard. But my hand is not over. Now I'm stuck with 2 cards, okay? So you can't pick up a card and lay down a set if you don't have something to discard. Now, in this situation, though, let's say it was like this, and I have these 2 8s. This is a perfect scenario for me because I can pick these up. The 8 is the highest card that I need to use, so I can lay down this set, go out, and now the round is over, okay? The game ends when somebody hits 500 points. So we'll play a round, add up the scores. If nobody's hit 500, play another round, add up the scores. If nobody's hit 500, we'll do it again, and you keep doing that until somebody hits 500 points.